So our first story has to do with public toilets. Yeah, public toilets. So on Skid Row, there are over 1,800 people that are homeless and only 9 toilets available. Only 9. I don't like when someone uses a urinal next to me. Imagine 1,000 other people using the same toilet too. Along with that, previous installed toilets were taken away due to drug use and prostitution. Not a good look. And now we have homeless people peeing and pooping everywhere because the government decided to take away plastic bags. And now we're adding in new 8 toilets and 6 showers that will cost us $450,000 to replace 10-cent plastic bags. Thank you, America. Thank you. Now we're going to bring in expert Adi Yahic with the next story. Welcome, Adi. Thanks for coming on to the show.
Thanks, Sean. So this story is actually thank you. This story is actually really interesting. So the NRA has officially sold Paul Ryan to United Healthcare and Johnson & Johnson. They're going to be co-owners from this time forward. This comes in the aftermath of the cut bill and his comments about mental health being the critical ingredient to stopping mass shootings in the future, which places the blame off of guns. The NRA feels really safe about gun laws in the future, so they don't think they need full ownership of anymore, and now they've ceded some ownership to United Healthcare and Johnson & Johnson. They're using this has led to comments from Paul Ryan saying that he wants to kill Medicare. Democrats find this really interesting because Medicare isn't the only thing that he'd be killing with this act. So the cut bill, which is named by Donald Trump, is planned to kill Medicare in the future and hopefully not too many Americans.
Welcome, Juliana. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Sean.
You're welcome.
All right, in 2012, there was a homosexual couple that requested a wedding cake for Mr. Phillips in the state of Colorado. Yes, way. They requested a wedding cake for Mr. Phillips, and Mr. Phillips denied them the wedding cake because he didn't believe that it went along with his beliefs. So
that's absurd.
It really is. So the state of Colorado said that Mr. Phillips was in the wrong, but Mr. Phillips wouldn't take that, so he took it all the way to the Supreme Court. Now the Supreme Court has to judge whether it is unconstitutional for Mr. Phillips to deny them the service, or whether the homosexual couple is in the wrong for being homosexual, and the Supreme Court will be reviewing this case before Donald Trump's sexual assault allegations.
So you're probably wondering why I changed settings. Don't wonder that. Wonder why Donald Trump is our president. Well, now we have expert Janessa Alderete.
So this year there's been a list that's been released to the public of over 300 officers who have been caught with misconduct cases like sexual assault and domestic violence. And this list includes over 300 officers from 22 counties in California. And this is a nationwide list named after the 1963 court case that requires prosecution to hand over any evidence that will exonerate the defendant. And the officer named Jeff McDonald wants this list added to the national database that tracks troubled officers. But the judge ruled no, basically because it infringes on the privacy rights of these officers. And this is a big deal because in California, these officers have strict rules that can regulate what can be released from these officers, about these officers. And that basically protects them from these crimes. Like, many of these people haven't been, there's no charges against these people or anything, so there's no punishment. And oftentimes the victim is blamed.
Good.
So basically our cops are just as bad as this football team this year.
Thank you so much for that amazing story. Now we have expert Sheena Oguri.
Now the Indians are suing Trump. Oh no, not the ones up Pioneer Boulevard, man. Native Americans. You know, the ones that he insulted in front of Andrew Jackson's picture? Yeah, those ones. Donald Trump reached this decision stating that there's too much federal overreach in the government. Now that Cheeto is being sued, Chester Cheetah is going to have to come in and help him foot the bill, probably. And of course he set his eyes upon this beautiful, luscious gold butt. Donald Trump is one thing.
Now we have expert Gabe Avalos with us.
Breaking news, breaking news. My sources have just confirmed that President Donald Trump recently just announced plans to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv in Israel to Jerusalem. This is a big decision, a big move that is going to start some upheaval and some unrest in the region. Many people are already upset due to the fact that the U.S. hasn't officially recognized Jerusalem as the true capital of Israel, and all presidents from President Bill Clinton to President Obama, and even for the first time, Donald Trump's first time in office, they've all signed a waiver saying that it would be in Tel Aviv and that it would not move to Jerusalem. But for the first time since Bill Clinton, this waiver is not going to be signed, and President Donald Trump is making the move to move it to Jerusalem. Rex Tillerson also announced the plan, but made it sound like it was going to be something that was going to happen more gradually. But Donald Trump is suggesting otherwise. In other news, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu just said maybe this wasn't a good idea after all. And right now there are actually big protests going on with people burning images of Donald Trump as well in the streets. You know, maybe this really wasn't President Donald Trump's idea after all. Maybe we should actually credit this big winning and big decision to his son-in-law, Mr. Jared Kushner, otherwise known as the White House Director of Innovation. You see, this guy has two major accomplishments in his life. The first one, managing to reach the massive height of 6'3", and the other one, somehow convincing Ivanka to marry him. Well, regardless of that, and just putting that aside, Jared Kushner is actually the MVP in all of this. He's probably the guy who convinced Donald Trump to make this move, and he's probably the one we need to send over to the Middle East right now. It's been his big goal to get peace, and I know he's the guy that we can trust. You know, who else wouldn't want to talk to this daring, dashing, good-looking man? And he's the type of guy who's going to get the job done at the end of the day. So maybe we need to credit this to Jared Kushner because he's a guy with a big plan.
News. We have just heard that Alabama has decided that pedophiles are in fact worse than Democrats. This news is shocking the nation. This news is shocking the United States. Roy Moore was an accused pedophile running for Senate in Alabama against Doug Jones, the Democrat, and he was a slight favorite to win. Many thought that Alabama would listen to the previous known sexual harasser that they elected, Donald Trump, who endorsed Roy Moore for his amazing qualification of not being a Democrat. Doug Jones is the first Democrat since 1987 to be elected to the Alabama Senate, and many Republican congressmen are very frustrated with the decision that Alabama has made, but their daughters breathe a sigh of relief. That's it for today's show.